Greetings, sailors, and welcome back to World of Warships, and what is basically, literally, the first two battles that I played in this season of Ranked, because, of course, the latest season is upon us. Now, I'm trying to be a little more serious about it this time round, although the chances of me persisting through to rank 1 are probably quite slim. I can see just getting fed up with it long before that point, but I'm going to have more of a go than I've had in the last couple of seasons, and I've mostly been playing the Scharnhorst. Now, this is literally the first two games, and it kind of, in my mind, encapsulates Ranked just as a whole. Now, obviously, the higher up you get, or rather the further down you get, down towards rank 1, things start to change a little bit, but on the whole, you still find quite a lot of derpiness. Now, we actually started this game with some not great behaviour. Somebody decided to shoot at somebody else. And we've also got Yoko. It's actually an ARP ship. It doesn't show up in replays, and I don't know why. Unless you're recording it live, it just shows up as a naked Miyoko, that set all the ARP fans off. I know, me saying that phrase. But a Miyoko without any camo. So yeah, he's just wandered off on his own, and not in a particularly smart way. I mean, sometimes there is value in being able to set up a flanking attack, but you need something to work with. You need smoke, basically. Miyoko doesn't have smoke, so he's immediately started off by running into an island. So that's a good start. We've also got people probably, I'm just assuming, calling each other names in the chat. Although, as it's apparently in German, at least I think it's in German, I can't tell if they are. I mean, they might be being really nice to each other, but I just suspect that's not the case. So with the Scharnhorst, I mean, I've been playing other ships. I've tried out the Sims a bit, which is possibly the destroyer I have available at tier 7 that has the best kind of captain available. I don't have any tier 7 Japanese destroyers available, because I mean, I could rebuy. Actually, no, I couldn't rebuy because I could buy one, but it's the Shiratsuyu that I've seen more than any of the other Japanese destroyers. Well, than the other Japanese destroyers. Any of the others makes it sound like there's loads of them. But yeah, I don't really have I'd have to retrain a higher rank captain. And I've also got the Błyskawica and the Mayhem, but the Mayhem is still semi-stock, and the Błyskawica doesn't have a particularly good captain either. So there's been a bit of the Sims. I've played the Indianapolis once or twice, and the combo of having radar and hydro is quite useful at times, but it is a little bit fragile. It's handy for taking down Belfasts, though. I've got my own Belfast, but I haven't yet taken it out. And I must confess, I've also taken out the Flint in 1 or 2 games. And actually, my most frustrating game overall so far has been in the Flint, where we had one player AFK, and myself in the Flint. Well, the very first shot I took detonated me because I'd forgotten to put on the flags, and it was full health, and it was somebody firing HE shells blind into my smoke. They were just guessing. One of them happened to hit my ship, and it detonated me from full health. And then we lost because we had an AFK Gneisenau, or possibly a Scharnhorst, German battleship anyway. So that was pretty frustrating because we were winning. We had both cap points. We were really quite far ahead on points, and then we all just, like, after I got detonated, I stuck around to watch, and it just went from bad to worse. But I decided not to show that one. I decided to stick with my plan of the first and second games because, well, you're going to see. So we've lost 2 ships already, including the Miyoko that went off on his own, and we've also lost another cruiser. I'm not sure which one it is. So we're trying to wear down this Gneisenau, but one of the reasons why the German tier 7 battleships, both of them really, are quite handy at this, or for ranked, is that they've got good survivability and a very good turn of speed. So if you need to run away, there's a good chance that you'll be able to. Now, the captain I've got on this is specifically a respect captain for ranked. I've just have gone with survivability skills above all else, rather than use one of my existing German battleship captains, because they're more specialised in different ways. And the reason why the Scharnhorst in particular I've been playing rather than the Gneisenau is there's been a fair number of cruisers around. In fact, some games have been very heavy on cruisers, and I've even had a couple where it's been like one battleship and the rest are cruisers. There's not even destroyers. So other games, there's actually been a fair few battleships, and the Scharnhorst is maybe a little less effective in those kind of scenarios. But you're never going to be facing higher tier ships. So a Scharnhorst with what's the name of this skill? Adrenaline Rush, there we go, in particular, which I don't think I had for these first two battles. I think I actually went to respec afterwards. But when you've got that already fast reload getting faster and faster as you're losing health, it becomes quite potent, because these 11-inch guns, they're still battleship guns. They still hit fairly hard, especially against cruisers. And if it comes down to an angled enemy battleship, there's always the option of HE. And if you can get those larger shells out quicker, that just becomes more effective. So rather than try and I was almost tempted to turn around and try and tackle that Gneisenau, but we're already down a ship on the enemy team. We've managed to kill one of theirs, but we are down a ship, and so splitting off at this stage to go on my own to try and chase off that enemy Gneisenau, who's making himself a nice isolated target. It would be a bit risky. There's an element of having to just stick with the team, especially in battleships. And so everybody else is apparently going down here, so I'm following, because if I just sit still in B, and there's not really a huge amount of cover that could be used there, especially when they have a destroyer left alive. And our destroyer, by the way, seems... you'll see a little later on, but our destroyer was not a good player, and that proved to be particularly detrimental to this match. So despite trying to suggest that they do various things at various points in the chat, they were basically ignoring that, doing their own thing, and not being particularly effective at it. So I'm just trying to do some damage at this point. The low health Gneisenau, he got away using his speed. The Gneisenau up there is, sitting broadside, so that's a nice target. But we're all now, I'm pushing west, and I'm thinking maybe we can force them away from the cap, and we can cap A ourselves. But we've now got the Pensacola turning back to, I think, help the Nagato. And the Nagato took a somewhat circuitous route, so he's sort of lagging behind everybody else. I mean, it's a couple of knots slower than the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst anyway, but he didn't help himself by the route that he took. And now we have no cap points, and even though the enemy team has split in half, we're not really in a position to do anything particularly about it. In fact, we haven't actually killed any other ships yet, because it's hard to, there's only a couple of enemy ships showing themselves at any one time, and trying to, I'm pinging people to I don't know how well it shows up, but, I'm pinging people to try and focus different targets at different times, and it's not being particularly effective. So the Akatsuki decides it's a fine time to go all the way around the 1-2 line. I could not tell you what the thought process there was. I mean, clearly he thought, I'll flank them, but he's taking a really long route to do it. He's not even going up that between the little passage between the island on the 2 line and the 3 line. He's actually going all the way around the outside of that island, and taking a particularly long way round of doing it. And we've also, we've got enemy players not playing super well. I'm trying to be more aggressive and push the cap at this point, and I know fine well I'm in danger of getting maybe a volley of torpedoes, but the destroyer was last spotted over on the 6 and 7 line. So, if the Pensacola and the Nagato can take care of those 2 ships, and me and the Gneisenau can maybe inflict some more damage here, because we've got broadside battleships, then, this in theory could be doable, but I'm taking a heavy battering here, and although these enemy battleships, they're not playing particularly well, they're just kind of exposing themselves long enough to take a bunch of damage and then pulling back into cover. And it's making life very awkward. So, I mean, I've managed another kill at this point with the enemy Miyoko, but there's still, you know, we're even on numbers. I've done almost 100k damage, but it's been very spread around damage. It's been hard to focus on a single target. I think partly that's the nature of this map. There's a lot of island cover to use, and also the fact that we're all split apart. So, I'm, you know, looking pretty beat up at this point. I'm about to get some health back. I'm trying to shoot at this angle Gneiser now, and I think I should be on the HE at this point, but I was maybe still thinking I could get some pens or that he'd unangle himself. In the south, the Nagato has run away from the Pensacola and gone into A, so instead of trying to gang up on that Gneiser now, they've split apart. I am in serious danger of sinking here myself. I mean, the enemy team has nearly twice as many points as we do. And it's all looking not very good. But hey, at least that Akatsuki has finally completed his epic journey around the 1-2 line, and he's now going to come up behind this Gneiser now, and he's going to finish him off. And that will give us some much needed points, and hopefully we can cap, because I've been getting reset. Although, having said that, you know, on capping, the Gneiser now is actually about to head out of the cap circle. That's not so good. I think he's been getting hit by the York, though, the enemy surviving cruiser over the island. So it's just me with cap points. And there go the Akatsuki's torpedoes, and they're just sailing right past. And I was a little bit vexed because he, you know, for having taken all that time to come round there, the Akatsuki had completely the element of surprise. Like, there's basically no excuse for screwing that up. The Gneisenau's guns were never going to be pointed in his direction. He could basically sail up beside the guy, torpedoes in the face, and it would have been, you know, that would have been it. And instead, it's left to somebody else to make that kill. So both of us remaining battleships, or the German battleships, are very low health. In fact, the Gneisenau looks like he might be about to die. He's got less than 1,000 hit points. Our brave Akatsuki, meanwhile, his long and meandering journey continues. It looks like he might be going for the Gneisenau, but keep an eye on his route. He's maybe thinking about it, but as to how he expects to accomplish it, yeah, your guess even is as good as mine. So the Nagato is trying to cap. He's managed to not get torpedoed to death already, which is not bad. Meanwhile, I'm all out of heals, and the enemy battleships, I think they lost one, but I mean, our Pensacola died. In fact, they did lose one. We actually watched it sink in front of my face. Yes, of course they lost one. This other Gneisenau, you know, enough health to be worrisome, but the Akatsuki can do something maybe. I mean, he's smoked up, he's got torpedoes out. That, by the way, I mean, unless he was within spotting range, detection range of the Gneisenau, just smoking like that is an immediate giveaway that you are going to be, you know, that there are torpedoes incoming. And so I guess he just does it at long enough range, and having smoked and given the Gneisenau warning that there were torpedoes incoming, he doesn't land a single hit. And now he's run up behind that island to the north of us, where I don't know, I'm not sure there's much he can do there. So this is all looking extremely unlikely that we'll win, but I'm thinking maybe there's an outside chance, maybe. So I've not managed much more damage since the last time I noted it. I've only gotten about 10 more K, but I mean, there's Gneisenau's broadside right now, so if I can get some good hits here, that might do the trick. This is the point where, being in a Gneisenau myself, I might have done more damage, but of course, you know, longer reload and the AP or the accuracy of the Gneisenau's 15-inch guns is still just as derpy. So this is a bit risky, actually. I possibly should have just tried to beach myself, but I am wary of this guy's own torpedoes, of course. So I pull this turn and get kind of lucky that I don't die in the process. My own torps are probably not going to do much, but I can't really afford to get up close and personal with this guy. I just don't have the hit points. I don't have any heals left. and if there's going to be any last-minute miracles, they need to happen right now. So that York's taken a bit of a battering. He's basically withdrawn to the point where he can fire over islands the entire time, and has just been staying alive, and you know, has been annoying to the rest of us. The Nagato, meanwhile, looks like he's going to go down. There he goes. And yeah, that's it. Basically, losing the Nagato, losing the Gneiser now. We lost on points, unsurprisingly. And there was just such a multitude of derp in that game. We had people shooting at each other. We had a completely useless cruiser who might as well not have been on our team. We had an even more useless destroyer who I imagine managed to do no damage at all, because I don't think he fired his guns at any point. I don't think he landed any torpedo hits, if he managed to do worse than the cruiser that died right at the start. So overall, it was not a good first game. It was a game that made me just put my head in my hands and think, is this worth it? Is this really worth it? Do I really want to try and persist with ranked? Now, of course, this is around rank, I think it was like rank 15 or 16, something like that I started at, because I hadn't done a lot last season. So I'm hoping it's less derpy once you get to the lower ranks, or is it lower ranks or higher ranks? I suppose you'd say the higher ranks, even though it's lower numbers. Once you get to the higher ranks, you'd imagine things would be a bit more coordinated, but I don't know. You still see horror stories on Reddit all the time. So I girded my loins and thought, right, let's try this again. It can't possibly be as bad as last time. And fortunately, it won't be. Already, this is an immediate sign that things are improved. Nobody is shooting at each other on our own team. And there's actually a bit of communication going on in the chat, and there was really not so much in the last one. Obviously on the EU server, and this is true on all servers where there's language differences to take into account, but even so, for the last one, you know, I mostly, like, the most I typed into the chat myself was just getting extremely annoyed at that Akatsuki for being so incredibly useless. We were, like, the way that him and that Southern Dragon actually played on our team, you know, we might as well have been 5 against 7, because that's how effective they were even. This time round, however, we're not going to have quite so much dead weight, fortunately. Now, the enemy team does have a pair of Belfasts. There have been a lot of them this time around. They are by far the most common source of smoke aside from destroyers. I've seen a couple of Fijis, and Fijis are kind of dangerous as well because they've got the smoke and the torpedoes, but Belfasts, of course, have the radar available. So that's the trade-off. And although the Belfast is maybe at a slight disadvantage if there are carriers in the game, there haven't been a lot of games with carriers. There aren't a lot of people taking carriers into ranked games. It's been a relatively uncommon sight. And one of the things you'll notice in both these games was that I was using the fighter consumable. At this point, I'm actually using the spotter plane instead. I've played a couple of games with the Nagato as well, actually, and it's the same there. The spotter is far more useful in ranked than the fighter plane, especially if you've got the twin plane skill. I want to say the twin catapult skill. Well, that doesn't particularly make sense, but you know what I mean. The skill that gives you an extra plane every time you pop the catapult. So that York is spotted at the moment, unfortunately for him, and taking a thorough battering. The York doesn't seem like a particularly suited ship for ranked at tier 7, but I have seen some of them around. The most effective thing about it, of course, is the hydro, but aside from that, it seems not the best fit. I mean, some of the cruisers... It's just been, I mean, it's been a comment on this season of ranks generally that at tier 7, the ones that seem to fit best are, by and large, premium ships, and I'm sure that was at least a little bit on the mind of Wargaming when they decided tier 7 would be the only tier this time round. And of course, well, I mean, you could be ultra cynical and say it was just so they could sell more Belfasts and sell more Scharnhorsts and whatever. I mean, there are some non-premium ships that are quite okay. The Nagato brings a pretty hefty punch to the table. The Colorado, I've seen a couple of Colorados as well. In fact, more than I would have expected. The Colorado has also got a pretty good punch, but it's slow. And speed is a particularly useful thing to have in ranked, especially if you're trying to keep up with cruisers. So it's been a bit of an odd choice, I think, the Colorado. Otherwise, it's been things I think I've mentioned already. Things like the Shiratsuyu, Miyokos. I've seen a fair few of the ARP ships, and again, that is an ARP ship on the enemy team. And the ARP ships in particular, they don't, as far as I know, get the benefit of having camo. As far as the game is concerned, they are entirely uncamouflaged, even though obviously it's a different skin. So, and again, that will be an ARP ship on the enemy team. It's just not showing up in the replay. But by and large, the most effective ones are premiums, and that is. It's a bit of a problem if you don't have any of them. I mean, if you've only got things like the York at tier 7, and oh dear, yes, that Atlanta's about to meet a sticky end, then it's maybe putting you at a disadvantage. And the fact that it seems like relatively few of the regular tier 7s are truly competitive is a little bit problematic. But overall, I mean, there's a fair number of choices to make. It's just some of them are premiums, and I don't know, maybe next time Wargaming will and I hope they choose a different tier, because tier 7 just seems kind of awkward, honestly. It's refreshing to have something different, don't get me wrong, but just the tier in question is yeah. Anyway, so this has been quite a tough fight so far. We've made some even trades. Our Fiji again going off on his own, and he's trying to, I think he was trying to get flanking fire, and while myself and this York are poking around this side, and I'm just trying to get shots in, because the enemy team, they know our Akatsuki's down there, they're making moves in that direction, and I chose this as a moment to push out for a better angle. But we've got Fiji on the other side, and this York next to me is quite low health, and in fact he's about to die. So in theory, this isn't actually that great. We're again fragmenting rather badly, but I've got a lot more health this time round, and just generally, I mean, we're not in danger of losing the cap. The enemy team are just bunched up in their cap, and so if they, like, that Belfast is going to run out of smokes eventually, and once he does, they seem disinclined to be particularly on the offensive. So as long as I can keep my health and we can keep a points advantage, we'll win. So the Belfast, I mean, I know he's a priority, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I've been reluctant to take it out myself, because it just seems like really try-harding it, and also people will try and shoot you as a priority because they know that you've got a particularly effective set of tools available. But he's backing off, and this Pensacola, on the other hand, isn't. He's being really quite oddly aggressive. I'm much more worried about the Colorado's guns. They do only have like non-torpedo ships available at this point, so I can now afford to get closer, but I don't want to get too much closer because those Colorado 6-inch guns could be really quite nasty. So I'm angling in towards the rock, and I do have it was a double fire, and it's now only a single fire, but I'm just going to let it burn because I possibly did have the Adrenaline Rush Captain skill respect at this point. I'm not actually sure. You'd have to pay attention to the gun reloads, but if it's sub 20 seconds, then yes, it will be. Anyway, also, of course, fire damage, you can get the entirety of that back, so it's not that threatening. So, yeah, the Pensacola's coming up close, and that is absolutely fine by me, because Even if he's angled, I can fire HE at him, and of course I've got torpedoes, and he's now well within torp range. Now it's not a great angle for dropping torps. It does give him some scope for dodging out the way with this kind of bow-on pass, but I'm also leery of him trying to ram me. I'm not sure why he would, but you do see people even doing really quite illogical things sometimes. So there we go, one torpedo hit in the bow, and that's a flooding. Because of the speed of this thing as well, it doesn't have that much chance of catching up with me, so yeah, I can just plug away at him. Now, maybe I should have been firing HE there. If this had been a Genizer now, I could just shoot through his bow armour, but these 11-inch guns are much more likely to just bounce. But, well, it seems much more likely that, in fact, my secondaries will get the kill, and they do. So that just leaves us Colorado, who has been getting attention from the Akatsuki. The Fiji died at some point. I wasn't paying attention to when that happened, but yeah, the Fiji that went off out on his own managed to get killed. If he was trying to use an island for cover and fire from the flank, he wasn't doing it very effectively. But basically, that means what it's come down to is this one 2 versus 1 situation now, where it's just the Belfast left. Now, the Belfast is sneaky, and not having torpedoes available, well, he's got to get pretty lucky in order to beat the both of us, the Akatsuki, and thank God, you know, this time round that we had a far more competent destroyer player, because that has made a big difference. He can't really hope to get us both. It would be very, very difficult. Now, of course, we don't know what level of consumables he has left. If by some miracle he managed to kill me, and I did have the anti-detonation flags on my shark horse, so you know that's probably not going to happen. Well, it's definitely not going to happen. It's actually impossible that it would happen. But even if somehow this Belfast were to kill me, he would still have the Akatsuki running around, and we do have a clear lead in points at the moment. So then it would come down to if he had consumables available to you know, ferret him out of a cap or whatever. Now, I'm not sure why the Akatsuki started opening fire, and I was actually counselling him, or I do counsel him against taking the hits. And there we go. So I'll tell him in the chat, just stay stealth, just stay alive. I can deal with this guy. But if the Akatsuki dies, that narrows the points gap between us and the enemy team a bit uncomfortably. So the Belfast smokes, and that means I can potentially just cap. But as he's the last guy left available, I'm basically going to ignore the urge. Now, I'm pretty much in the process of capping anyway, but I cut a little bit out there. He pushed out the smoke, and he does get the reset on me, but my intention was not to cap, it was just to kill this last guy, because he's low health, and I've got the speed to do it. I'm not quite sure why I slowed there, but for whatever reason I did. I mean, I'm pretty comfortably in range of this guy anyway. Potentially, it might be because I didn't want to head into the smoke and break the line of contact with this guy. But, well, of course, if he's firing, now the smoke is blocking us, if he's firing, he can be quite easily picked up by the destroyer, which he is. And, of course, I could have popped my own plane, which I've actually just done. But the smoke is just expiring anyway. So, he's almost dead. It's not going to take a lot more to kill this guy. Just one more hit. We've also got time. I mean, even if he manages to get round behind this island for cover, we've got time to chase him down. There's no special pressure in that regard. But it doesn't matter, because that final salvo takes him and takes the win. So that was quite a close game. But even so, it was just like, it was actually less damage than the previous game as well, but it was just so much more satisfying because it felt like I'd actively contributed, even though I think there was a danger of it having suffered the same fate as the previous game. Mostly our team was trying to play together in a way that the previous team just didn't feel like it was. So yeah, it was a much more satisfying game, and it was quite nice to have come out that high on the team list as well. But that ultimately doesn't matter. I mean, on a loss, as with the first game, if you're top of the team, of course you don't lose any stars, and so there's almost an element in ranked of if it looks like you're losing the game at that point, it's just a scramble to try and be at the top of the team and to not lose your progress, at which point you're fighting your own team as much as you're fighting the enemy team. But that, I don't know, that didn't really happen in this case. I mean, in the first game I wasn't even consciously trying to do that. It's just I think I had so much damage compared to the rest of the team that there wasn't much contest for being top of the team. But in this case, you know, I think the Akatsuki had a good chance of being in that first place instead. But, you know, we won, so it didn't matter. So I'm going to keep my hand in. I'm going to keep trying, see how far I can get. If I can get below rank 10, that would be quite nice. I think it's been a while since I've managed that. But it really does just depend on how much I can stand doing it, because apart from anything else, there's a lot else on at the moment with Russian destroyers and testing out other things. There's also the fact that I've been trying out new video editing software. This is still in the new software. I'm interested to see how it looks with warships. And I've just not been feeling super great anyway, so that kind of limits the amount of time that I want to spend bashing my head against online gaming. And so just things have been a bit more difficult. Generally, you know, they take more effort. But for the time I am putting in, I'm hopeful that I can at least get to rank 10. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this pair of replays, and if you have, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.